Good morning from sacred space at Titania's realm. It's 10:16 a.m. on the 18th of April 2025. Happens to coincide with Good Friday. So I just wanted to show you, I worked very hard yesterday on making this cuff. Put a video up last night because I was so distressed that the bezel shredded when I was bending the actual cuff, but I'm going to go in later on when I feel perky again because I'm still a bit wrung out, and I'm going to resolder the ball that fell off there and set the stone, which I'm very happy about. I think it's going to be a lovely piece when I'm finished. Now, I worked all day yesterday. I worked on this project too, making this catch for my bracelet. And I've just got to go back in and sit that back down. There. So, can you see it? So I had to solder. I made that out of 2mm wire, and I soldered those little balls on, which had to do twice because the first time they just all fell apart, and I had to make more balls. And well, anyway, that was a journey I went on yesterday too. So I worked very, very hard today, and I've only got 2 items to show for all my hard work. But I'm satisfied and contented with the results. So anyway, I thought I would continue reading stories to you because I missed out yesterday because I was occupied on my silversmithing journey. Just sit that back down. And today we're going to read still from Great Mysteries of the Modern World, and probably only have 2 more videos to go. We're near the end of the book. So today we're going to read Sabotaged, Horror of the Hindenburg. Just finishing to bugger. Alright, here we go, babies. Let's just do it. Adolf Hitler regarded the immense airship Hindenburg as the perfect propaganda tool. To the distress of the craft's idealistic designers, he swathed its fins in swastikas, used it to dominate the skies above the 1936 Berlin Olympics, and sent it on leaf-dropping exercises across the Reich. When the Hindenburg exploded into flames while landing in Lakehurst, New Jersey, the Nazis went to extraordinary lengths to explain the tragedy away as an act of God. But many analysts believe there were sinister secrets behind the Zeppelin's destruction, secrets which to the present day have never been revealed. The proverb, "He who sups with the devil needs a long spoon," had bitter significance for Dr. Hugo Echner. As the nationally popular principal of Germany's Zeppelin company, he was politically naive enough to accept money from Hitler's regime to finance his pet project, the Hindenburg, the largest, most luxurious airship ever designed. It was a decision he would regret lifelong. Echner's firm, founded during the 1880s by the celebrated aeronautical engineer Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin, had launched fleets of successful dirigibles over the decades. But to the Nazis, the Hindenburg, named after a German national hero, was the most glittering prize of all. They unstintingly poured public money into its construction and then, when it was complete, moved with unseemly haste to collect their dues. To Hugo Eckener's dismay, Hitler's henchmen insisted on emblazoning the massive craft with swastikas and flying her into every corner of Europe to demonstrate Germany's burgeoning might. From the moment she was launched, the Hindenburg was not only a swaggering symbol of National Socialism, but its willing handmaiden. When Hitler invaded the Rhineland, she appeared over every major German city, dropping leaflets urging a yes vote in the referendum, justifying the attack. And when the airship sailed above Berlin's Olympic Stadium in August 1936, older British visitors were unpleasantly reminded of the bombs that had whistled down from Zeppelins over London in the Great War. Hugo Eckener, never a tactful man, made no secret of his displeasure that the Hindenburg was being misused to promote a political party, and a party he despised at that. He was particularly unhappy about the fact that the United States government, generally mistrustful of Hitler, was refusing to allow the Zeppelin Company to buy an American product it sorely needed, a product which, theoretically, would make the Hindenburg immeasurably safer for passengers and crew. From the drawing board onward, Zeppelin engineers had planned to fill their airship's lift bags with helium gas rather than the flammable hydrogen other dirigibles used. The United States was the only nation on Earth producing helium in commercially usable quantities. American authorities, fearing that the new unstable Reich might use helium for military purposes, banned its export. Dr. Eckener was obliged to have his airship redesigned for hydrogen and to take drastic precautions to minimize the risk of fire. One of these was the inclusion of a smoking room, insulated by walls a foot thick. It would be the sole spot aboard the Hindenburg where passengers could light up. The tightly sealed area was pressurized to prevent hydrogen seeping in. One expert observer described the multitude of precautions as an example of ideal but probably unnecessary engineering. Lesser dirigibles, or hydrogen-filled, had been plying the planet's often lightning-riven skies for years. Their overall safety record was impeccable in an era when it could be perilous to cross the Atlantic in an aeroplane. Zeppelins were seen as the bright future of passenger travel, and the Hindenburg was the queen of them all. Speaking of queens, I actually dreamt of Queen Elizabeth last night. Wonder what that's about. Can't remember the exact dream, but I remember talking. I curtsied in front of her. I curtsy, only jokingly curtsy at times. I yield to no human being. But occasionally I dream of curtsying to Queen Elizabeth, which is odd since she's dead now. I never met her in real life anyway. That's right, it's coming back to me now. I was lost trying to get somewhere, and I was asking for directions, and I ended up in someone's apartment somehow, and they were explaining to me that I was completely in the wrong direction, explaining to me where I had to go. And then I drove to some other kind of hospice type place, and there I came upon the Queen. Actually, it was Queen Elizabeth, or her features anyway. And it was almost like she was there, but incognito. Nobody realised she was the Queen. So I actually curtsied in front of her, and I said, "So lovely to meet you, Mum," and did this really low curtsy. And she just looked at me in horror and said, "Don't tell anyone." It was odd. It was an odd dream, but pleasant. Like, please don't tell anyone that I'm here. Oh, funny things that happen to my mind when I'm sleeping. And I said, "I promise I won't, Mum." And then I just went out and got back in my car and continued journeying to wherever it was I was trying to go to. I still don't remember where it was I was trying to go to. But where I was driving along, it looked a bit like Maroochydore, Caloundra, like some seaside town. There was either the ocean or a river on one side. Actually, don't think it was the ocean. I think it was a river. So it could have been Mooloolaba or somewhere like that. It's odd. And so I'm like, as I'm driving, I'm looking at the expanse of water, this river beside me, which was on my left. And then I was looking at all the houses along, like the Esplanade, driving up, and taking in like the perspective of it all. It was really interesting looking at all the architecture. It felt like real life, except for the part where I met the Queen and curtsied to her. Well, I guess you would still curtsy to a Queen because, rank and privilege of accidents of birth and all that, but just courtesy of manners. But yes, anyway, strange little dream I had. Queen Elizabeth. Almost as long as the Titanic and as high from fin to fin as a 13-story building. My goodness. The airship offered standards of luxury previously undreamed of. For the first time aboard a dirigible, passengers could enjoy a hot shower. In the dining room, travellers chose from a large variety of vintage wines and ate gourmet meals from gold and blue porcelain. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Very partial to good quality porcelain dinner sets. My friend Jared just gave me his fake Versace one that I've always admired, and he said I can't store it anymore, I hardly use it. He's having to downsize, so he gave it to me, so I'm very happy and grateful for that. It's a lovely setting, but it's something that my family are very opulent about. Like, my sister will only eat off Villeroy and Bosch, which is very expensive porcelain too. And my mother had all the best German china, which I was eating off for a while, but I reverted to eating of cheaper dinner sets because I want to preserve the good quality German china for as long as possible. But I quite like Villeroy and Bosch too. They had a beautiful pattern out about 20 years ago that I had no money. But if I had, I would have bought that entire dinner setting. It was some kind of jungle scene with toucans and beautiful birds and things on the rims and gold, and it was gorgeous. To this day, I wish I could have afforded it. Sometimes things like that grind my gears, even decades later. But anyway, what is money anyway? I'm very happy with the lovely dinner set Jared gave me, and I was even very happy with the cheap little setting I bought in an op shop, a couple of years ago. I've been using that happily. It's pretty and bright, it's bright red. So things don't have to be expensive, exclusive brand names is what I'm saying. There's some lovely things out there, lovely patterns and designs. But gold and blue porcelain does sound very attractive. Anyway, they could then listen to music or watch plays in the entertainment area or retreat replete to warm and spacious cabins. But what most passengers found unforgettable were the stunning views from the windows of a promenade deck 60 metres long. Poets were inspired to describe the experience of sailing serenely above sparkling oceans, mountains, and dark German forests. Hugo Eckener, who had been a successful writer before he succumbed to the siren song of the Zeppelins, described his beloved Hindenburg thus: "It is like one of those opalescent butterflies which fascinate as they flutter in the summer sunshine, that seek a sheltered corner whenever a storm blows up. Often, when people greet it enthusiastically as it appears in the heavens, I have felt as if they believed they were seeing in it a sign and symbol of a lasting peace among people." It's a shame that his dream got subverted, isn't it? Sounds like he was actually a lovely man, wanting peace for his people. Just in case anyone failed to comprehend these sentiments, Eckener subsequently wrote, "If airships are used for political purposes, it will be the end of airships." Prophetic. The Reich's propaganda minister, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, who my mother always quipped was a schnappy dresser. Apparently he liked to dress in beautiful quality suits and was a bit of a dandy about town. But isn't that weird, these little anecdotes you find out from people who actually lived through that regime, little insights into people's quirks. Anyway, Goebbels. His great niece. This is a harrowing thought. His great niece, at the time that I was undergoing my Orthodox Jewish conversion, his great niece had been working for me for a few years already at that time. We bought the business in 1990, and this was in 1994 when I was doing my Orthodox conversion, which I did not complete because there was so much slander and viciousness directed to both myself and my conversion rabbi. Disgusting it was. But anyway, it turned out that the great niece of Joseph Goebbels worked for me in my shop. I had no idea. One day she came out with it. My great uncle was, oh no, have I got it mixed up? Hermann Goering. Hermann Goering it was. Hermann Goering. And are you joking? I said to her. She said, no. She said, my grandmother and husband were put in the equivalent of a kind of a concentration camp here in Queensland because of her relationship, blood relation, to Hermann Goering. Now I mixed up Goebbels and Goering. Oh, my mind's going, isn't it, darling? That's a worry. Anyway, I looked at her with quite some horror. She said, oh no, she said, my grandmother wasn't a Nazi. They had migrated, her side of the family had migrated to Queensland sometime around the early 1800s. She said we had no real connection to him except that he was a blood relative. So she said they were actually reading all our correspondence and, what's the word, blacking anything out that they thought might be controversial, secret. She said it was actually quite funny because we didn't even really know the man. We were here raised in Australia and he was in Germany. We'd never actually been there and there was no actual real connection apart from occasional letters at Christmas or birthdays going across. Anyway, I found that quite astonishing. I remember thinking, how is it that I, with a German mother and a concentration camp surviving de facto stepfather from Little Baldora, doing my Orthodox Jewish conversion, discovers that I've got the great niece of a very, very intense compatriot of Hitler and a Nazi war criminal working for me in my little chicken shop, out of which I was actually selling kosher cheese to assist my rabbi in his, organising kosher cheese for the community. That's not why they vilified me, by the way. They didn't even know that I was employing the great niece of a Nazi war criminal, because neither did I at the time. But you see, twists of fate, twists of strange synchronicities and coincidences. Anyway, I didn't have any antipathy to that woman for that reason. She turned savage when my marriage crumbled later on that year. She turned very savage and aligned with my husband, and as it did most of my staff, except for Jared, maintained his friendship with me. So that was the end of that friendship with that really treacherous, awful woman. And here I was, keeping her in her job, even knowing her family history. And you can't help who your ancestors are. You just can't. It's not your fault. You've got no choice. You're born into a family and you're not actually responsible for their actions, but it's hard to not kind of look at them with suspicion, like I get it. But anyway, she turned out to be a turncoat regardless. It's like that in life sometimes. People like to kick you when you're down. They wait till they think that you're weak and vulnerable and ill or having breakdowns, and instead of lifting you up and supporting you, they pile on. It's happened to me a multitude of times. That's why I actually kind of despise most other humans now. I look at them and think, yuck. Anyway, it is what it is. It's a beautiful day out there though. Today it's a glorious sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. So, having survived all those monstrosities, we just continue on being happy, because happiness is the best revenge, people, there. Authentic, genuine, sincere, joyous success in all our undertakings and happiness. Never let the bastards grind you down. Right, where was I? And I digressed there. Oh yes, confusing Goering for Goebbels. Well, they sound similar, but they both start with G. Oh, you have to laugh. Right, let me just find it. Right, the Reich's propaganda minister, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, so it was Hermann Goering who was the schnappy dresser, not Goebbels. I don't think my mother mentioned Goebbels. I meant most of them she didn't mention. For some reason she just brought that up one time. Must have been constantly in the German press going on about how wonderful he was. Propaganda's a thing, especially in the Reich. At a press conference, he made a declaration of banishment, saying Dr. Eckener has alienated himself from the nation. From this time, newspapers may no longer mention his name nor publish his picture. However, the regime did not remove the independent-minded Eckner from his post at the Zeppelin Company, in other words, used him. In extreme disfavour though he was, he remained an indispensable part of the Reich's airship programme. On 6th of May 1936, the Hindenburg made the first passenger flight from Germany to North America. Passengers, paying less than the ticket of a first-class ticket on the Queen Mary, lauded the gigantic aircraft's comfort and stability. Everything was so still, wrote one traveller. It was like standing in an upper story of a hotel and looking out of the window at the street below, and no one, not even those with the most delicate of stomachs, became airsick. Simply there was nothing to cause it. One of the crew showed us how he could stand a pencil on end, and no matter how long we watched, it never fell over. As months passed, the transatlantic flights became almost commonplace. They inspired a poetic reaction in some observers. One American journalist wrote, "The airship, silent and strange, slipped like an enormous fish through the ocean of cloud above us." Others had more practical concerns. On 8th of April 1937, a Catherine Rauch of Milwaukee sent a letter of warning to the German embassy in Washington. "Please inform the Zeppelin Company that they should open and search all mail before it is put on board prior to every flight of the Hindenburg. The Zeppelin is going to be destroyed by some bomb." Whether the letter was prescient or merely alarmist, we will never know. On 3rd of May 1937, the huge aircraft set out on what was by now another routine flight from Frankfurt to the United States. Only half the berths were occupied, 36 out of a possible 72. The poor bookings were considered in the trade to be the result of increasing political tensions in Germany. On 6th of May, when the Hindenburg was moving above the pine woods at Lakehurst, New Jersey, she was running 12 hours late. The commander, Captain Max Pruss, had encountered strong headwinds all the way. While waiting for them to die down to enable him to land safely, he had sailed over New York, treating his enchanted passengers to views of the Empire State Building, a baseball game, and the Statue of Liberty. This was described by a Zeppelin Company guest, writer Leonhard Adult, as resembling a tiny porcelain figure. At 4 p.m. over Lakehurst, Pruss in the control gondola received a weather report. Gusts now 25 knots. 'Twas still not the right time to land. He signalled to Charles Rosendahl, the air station's commander, that he would continue to wait for calmer weather. Pruss steered his craft toward the coast, then headed north along New Jersey's bleak, spray-shrouded beaches. Most of the passengers were delighted. This was additional entertainment for no extra cost. They stared down awestruck at the wild nature below, swirling fogs and crashing waves whose raw, ever-changing majesty no mere painter could have captured. At 6:12 p.m. it was time for the Hindenburg to buckle down to business. Commander Rosendahl signalled Captain Pruss. Conditions now considered suitable for landing. Pruss turned back toward Lakehurst, but did not seem to be in a hurry. At 7:10, Rosendahl intensified his message. Conditions definitely improved. Recommend earliest possible landing. Before that happened, however, there was important work to be done. Captain Pruss straightened his ship by emptying 1,100 kilograms of ballast water onto the ground, unintentionally drenching several outraged spectators. The massive Zeppelin. Why is my head buffy? Why? Why people are there? I don't know. Probably from all the stress of making that jewel yesterday. My hair gets very lank when I sweat with it. Slightest bit really. It's okay though, it's not too bad. Anyway, it's not about my hair, is it? Got distracted for a moment there. In a small shed next to the gigantic No. 1 hangar, a young announcer, Herbert Morrison, was describing the scene for his audience on Chicago radio station WLS. In subsequent years, some of these listeners would say they remembered hearing Morrison's historic broadcast direct from Lakehurst. But in fact, he recorded his famous commentary on large metal discs for later broadcast. Morrison said, "Here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, and what a sight it is, a thrilling one, just a marvellous sight. It's coming down out of the sky, pointed toward us and toward the mooring mast. The mighty diesel motors roar, the propellers biting into the air and throwing it back in gale-like whirlpools. This great floating palace can travel at such a speed with these powerful motors. The sun is striking the windows of the observation deck on the eastward side and sparkling like glimmering jewels against a background of black velvet." At 7:25 p.m, the crew dropped ropes to allow workers below to tow the ship into position. The Hindenburg now hovered about 290 feet above the airfield. It's practically standing still now. They've dropped ropes out of the nose and they're being taken hold of down on the field by a number of men. It's starting to rain again. The back motors of the ship are just holding it, just enough to keep it from... It's burst into flames. It's on fire and it's crashing. It's crashing terribly. Oh my, get out of the way, please. It's burning, bursting into flames and falling on the mooring mast. This is terrible. This is the worst catastrophe in the world. There's smoke and flames now, and the frame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. Oh, the humanity and all the passengers screaming. According to witnesses, the flame in the first few seconds had been blue and small. But when it had exploded into the bright yellow fire which crumpled the airship's rear, revealing twisted metal that continued to float above the landing field, passengers and crew began to jump for their lives. Some broke limbs, some were crippled. Many died, both on the ground and in the furnace above. Ground crewmen instinctively ran as the gigantic pyre came crashing down. During the 27 seconds of the disaster, some spectators remained standing, others spread-eagled themselves, faces pressed into the earth, fearing that a fuel explosion would engulf the airfield. The statistics published next day listed 34 dead. Captain Pruss survived. A cabin boy had escaped death when a water tank exploded above his head, drenching him. If the Hindenburg had been carrying her normal complement of passengers, the death toll would undoubtedly have been higher. In Germany, Hitler immediately broadcast a message of sympathy to the victims and their families, describing the fire as an act of God. This bland assertion, made before the smallest investigation was attempted, was to be the unswerving Nazi line. Dr. Goebbels instructed newspaper editors that their coverage must emphasize the accidental nature of the tragedy. The possibility of sabotage must not even be hinted at. Any editor whose publication suggested that there might be effective opposition to the National Socialist regime would be courting a charge of treason. Surviving victims, lying in the Paul Kimball Hospital near Lakehurst, suffered no such inhibitions. One guest passenger on the Hindenburg's death flight had been Ernst Lehmann, a Zeppelin pioneer and distinguished German pilot. Fatally burned, his body swaddled in bandages, Lehmann in his last hours told his friend, Airfield Commander Charles Rosendahl, that he was certain someone had planted an infernal machine, a time bomb, aboard the airship. He had heard something that sounded like a small explosion seconds before flames engulfed the craft. Here's a passenger ticket for a 1936 Hindenburg flight. Sabotage, the secrets. Two German citizens, known for the detestation of the National Socialist regime, were on the Hindenburg during her May 1937 flight to Lakehurst. Other known anti-Nazis were aboard, but Joseph Spar and Erich Speil recommend themselves to sabotage proponents and the FBI as having had the greatest motive and opportunity to strike. Spar, a vaudeville acrobat, was travelling home to his family in the United States after a 3-month European tour. His Alsatian dog Ulla, which he had bought as a present for his 3 children, was in the cargo hold amid an assortment of other animals and birds, all in wicker cages. Unescorted passengers were forbidden to enter this area, but Spar, a person of considerable charm, talked crew members into letting him visit his lonely pet whenever he pleased. In this vulnerable section of the airship, Spar would have had ample opportunity to plant an explosive and a timing device. Spar survived the crash. FBI agents questioned him, but could find insufficient evidence to make an arrest. Equally, under a cloud in the eyes of American and German investigators was the young crewman Erich Speil. Known for his uncommunicative and secretive nature, Speil had long been a fearless private critic of the dictatorship. As one of 3 riggers aboard the airship, he enjoyed unrestricted access to the axial walkway. He could easily have attached a miniature time bomb to a gas bag's outer skin. The tiny eruption would have been all that was required to destroy one of the most potent icons of Hitler's power. Speil died in the blaze. But if indeed he was the culprit, it seems most unlikely that he deliberately sacrificed his own or anyone else's life. If unexpectedly bad weather had not delayed the airship's landing, she would have been sitting in her gigantic hangar with nobody aboard at the time the time bomb exploded. Awful though, still awful. All those people died for no bloody reason. Just awfulness. Captain Pruss is also widely believed to have blamed a saboteur for the crash. On his return to Germany, he was warned and fell silent. The painfully burned Hindenburg captain owed his life to a German Jewish physician who had fled the Third Reich and established a practice in New York. When Pruss asked for his bill, the doctor replied, "In an emergency of the German people, there is no charge for my services." I wonder if he would have felt the same way post-1945. But, you see, patriotism, sometimes often misplaced. Be careful what demons you are loyal to, people of Earth. Say the same about the Palaszczuk government, can't we? That monster. Anyway, don't get me started on that. Air Minister Hermann Göring had the grace to send the physician a note of thanks. For their own reasons, neither the American nor the German government wanted to give much weight to talk of sabotage. Among theories put forward at the 2 nations' official inquiries was the suggestion that the disaster had been sparked by St. Elmo's fire. This is the static electrical charge which in stormy conditions can surround such elevated objects as weather vanes. Perhaps, an expert told the American hearing, a support wire had snapped, tearing open a hydrogen cell whose leaked gas was set ablaze by a St. Elmo's spark. Several would-be witnesses went unheard, including one who surmised in the press that sharpshooters concealed in the pine forest could easily have fired at the airship and escaped unseen. It's quite possible, isn't it? The German and American inquiries came to similar conclusions. The crash had been brought about by natural causes whose actual nature could only be guessed at. But significantly, most of the people who knew and flew Zeppelins embraced the sabotage theory. In an interview with a German radio station, the characteristically incautious Dr. Hugo Eckener pointed out how safe Zeppelins had been over the years. He tended to believe, he said, that the fire had been deliberately caused, probably by someone opposed to the present government. To the image-obsessed Nazi regime, this suggestion was intolerable. Hermann Goering called the troublesome Zeppelin expert to the Air Ministry and warned that if he spoke further about sabotage, he would suffer severe consequences. He ordered Eckener to appear on radio again, nationally this time, and recant what he had said. After the inquiries into the airshape's fate, a deep official silence fell. But the rumours in the free world's press and in the tyranny streets would not be stilled. A report considered particularly feasible had it that why is it not sitting flat? By the gods. I'm frustrated because I worked on it all day and can't get it to sit flat. Anyway, a report considered particularly feasible had it that in their study of the cooling wreckage, American investigators found a remnant of a timing device along with traces of an explosive, but nothing could be proved. Right, I got it, it's all right now. What really happened during the Hindenburg's final flight? The truth will never be known. Spy ship secrets. In the wake of the Hindenburg tragedy, the Nazis continued to fund the building of Zeppelins. The most notable was a giant known as the LZ-130, designed to be held aloft by the safe gas helium, which could only be bought from the United States. Hermann Goering sent Dr. Hugo Eckener to Washington to persuade Congress to reverse its ban on helium exports. The mission was successful. American public opinion, stirred by newsreels showing the Hindenburg aflame, prompted Congress to amend the Helium Control Act, allowing the gas to be sold to Germany for non-military uses only. But in 1938, when the Third Reich annexed Austria, the United States reconsidered again. At the urging of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, Congress renewed its helium ban. It was a sensible move. After the dictatorship was defeated in 1945, historians learned that the LZ-130, flying on hydrogen, had had part of her passenger space converted to house a secret detection unit. As the Zeppelin flew over such countries as France, Czechoslovakia, and Poland, agents concealed aboard her took thousands of aerial photographs of military defences, pictures which would substantially help Germany's invasion forces. During these spy flights, the LZ-130 suffered numerous unexplained engine failures and other technical problems. Was she, like the Hindenburg before her, the victim of sabotage? Right, I'm going to stop there. I'll be back later to finish off in another video the last few stories. I need to take a break right now, people of Earth. So, Goddess bless, wherever you are in the space-time continuum, whatever dimensions you arrive from, return to, or in this 3D reality of unreality, and paradigmical shifts and inversions and perversions and distortions and contortions on this beautiful, glorious day. Be happy. Live your best life. Never ever let the bastards grind you down. And by the way, babies, have we reached catharsis yet? Love you all. Bye for now.